She was harassed on a plane. She had no idea the man beside her was a Hell's Angel. The cabin lights dimmed as Flight 247 prepared for takeoff from Chicago to Denver. Megan adjusted the blanket over her 5-year-old daughter, Emily, who was already dozing off with her stuffed bunny tucked under her chin. As a single mom working double shifts just to keep the lights on, this weekend trip to visit her sister was supposed to be a rare moment of peace, a breath of fresh air in a life that often felt like it was spinning out of control. But peace wouldn't come easy. 3 rows behind them, a man in a wrinkled suit began muttering loudly about kids these days and no respect. His voice grew sharper, more aggressive, until he stood up and stomped toward their row. "Can't you shut that kid up?" he snapped, glaring at Emily, who flinched awake, eyes wide with fear. Megan's heart pounded. She tried to stay calm. "She's asleep now," she said softly. "We're not making any noise." But the man wasn't listening. He leaned in, his breath sour, his eyes wild. "You people think you own the world just 'cause you popped out a brat." Megan's hands trembled. She clutched Emily closer, scanning the cabin for help, but everyone looked away. Flight attendants were busy with service prep. Passengers buried themselves in screens or pretended to sleep. In that moment, she felt utterly alone, just another invisible woman trying to protect her child in a world that too often turned its back. Then, a deep voice cut through the tension like steel slicing silk. "Back off." The words weren't shouted. They were spoken low, steady, and full of quiet authority. Megan turned and saw the man sitting beside her, the one who'd boarded silently 10 minutes before takeoff. He hadn't said a word the entire time. Now he slowly rose from his seat. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with weathered skin and eyes that held decades of stories. A faded black vest covered his t-shirt, and beneath it, ink snaked up his arms, eagles, skulls, roses wrapped in thorns. On the back of his vest, stitched in bold white letters, "Hell's Angels." The harasser froze. His bravado evaporated like mist in sunlight. He stammered something intelligible, then backed away, retreating to his seat without another word. The Hell's Angel didn't raise his voice again. He simply sat back down, gave Megan a small nod, and returned to staring out the window, as if he'd just done something as ordinary as passing the salt. But to Megan, it was nothing short of a miracle. For the rest of the flight, she watched him from the corner of her eye. He never spoke unless spoken to. He offered Emily a pack of gum with a gentle smile. When turbulence rattled the plane, he subtly shifted his body to shield them both, as if instinctively guarding what mattered. And when the wheels touched down in Denver, Megan finally found her voice. "Thank you," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stepped in." The man looked at her, not with pity, but with quiet respect. "Any man who picks on a mother and her child ain't worth your fear." Then, after a pause, "You got strength, ma'am. You just needed someone to remind you you're not alone." Before she could respond, he stood, slung a worn leather duffel over his shoulder, and walked down the aisle, disappearing into the crowd like a ghost. But his words stayed with her. That night, as Emily slept soundly in her aunt's guest room, Megan stared out the window at the Rocky Mountains glowing under moonlight. She thought about how the world can feel cold and cruel, and yet kindness still shows up in tattooed strangers, in silent acts of courage, in moments when hope feels lost, but protection arrives anyway. She realized something powerful. Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather vests and ride motorcycles, and sometimes they sit quietly beside you on a plane when you need them most. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to ACA Story Tales. Your support helps us bring more real-life tales of courage, compassion, and second chances to millions around the world. Tell us in the comments, have you ever been helped by a stranger when you needed it most? Where are you watching from today? Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might just restore your faith in humanity. Because even in the darkest skies, kindness finds a way to land. Thanks for watching.